Superstar is Superstar. He was the WWF champion. Biggest mistake that company ever made was not turning him babyface. People say to me, who's the greatest champion? I can tell you this. I'll tell you this about all the champions I saw, whether I was a fan or in the business. The one that impressed me when he walked out of the dressing room was Bruno Sammartino. If I had landed here in this country and didn't know anything about wrestling, they said pick out the world heavyweight champion was Bruno. But for charisma, nobody had talked like Billy. I mean, Dusty stole it from Billy. They were very close. They talked all the time. Bob Dylan, he referenced Bob Dylan a lot. But Superstar, there's that pose of Superstar in the red long tights with his arm. His arm looks like it's 42 inches. You know what I'm talking about? And then that other one where he has the belt and he's ripped. He had won a Mr. America contest.
Yeah, he won Best Arms.
Yeah, and his interviews. And then what happened was the people were turning him. And for some reason, I'll tell you two reasons, I think. For some reason, Vince didn't think that turning him babyface would work. Yet he had turned babyface's heels and had a lot, drew up money. Zabisco and Bruno. Superstar, to me, nobody could ever rap like he did in that era. Nobody looked like him until Scott Steiner. And the people loved him. The reason why I think he didn't go with them was Vince wanted to get away from, Jack Briscoe had drawn a lot of money. He wanted to get away from the ethnic champion. Pedro and Bruno had the belt a long time between the both of them. And he saw what Briscoe could do, and he put Bob Backlund in that position. And he surrounded Bob with, bull rope matches with Dusty Superstar, Jimmy Snooker, Don Morocco. I think Billy Graham could have been, at that time, bigger than Hogan was. Nobody was going nationwide yet. But Billy could have been, they did it in Miami. He came down and wrestled Harley Race for an hour. A lot of people don't understand that Billy could work too. He got away with a lot of his pose and a lot of other things. But that was the time. I think...
He liked being a babyface too, on top of that.
Yeah, and I think of all the mistakes I've ever seen, money-wise, that flew away, that was it.
Because he holds the record for most consecutive sellouts in Madison Square Garden, 19 out of 20. And the only one that didn't sell out was against Peter Maivia, and that was only a little bit shy of selling out. So
yeah.
It would have definitely continued on. And working with him in Florida, any specific memories or stories from that?
Yeah, when we turned him babyface. I mean, the famous thing where I go to slap the valet, the lock, and he grabs my hand. Well, when I threw that chair at him, and he didn't even have to cut. I threw that chair at him and we hung him up. Fonzie, who's the referee, we all know Fonzie, came and jumped on my back. He was so pissed. And he had started, he had the bald head then, but he started to morph into the old Superstar. And if you look back at those pictures when he's in the desert, you can see it's Superstar, except he doesn't have the blonde hair anymore. I think that Hulk Hogan stole 80% of his shtick from Superstar Billy Graham.
Yeah, because Billy actually did the cupping of the ear too, and the shirt rip.
Yeah.
He just didn't do it every match. So
Yeah,
that,
and
the brother.
Billy was a preacher, and he got into that. The brother, I think.
And he coined the term superstars, wrestlers, and now everyone's called superstars.
I never thought of that. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And I always thought Billy was way ahead of his time, but there should have been a match. Just think of the poster, him versus Hogan, face
Oh,
to
yeah.
face. They wouldn't have.
But Hogan wouldn't have wanted it.
No, and I don't think he would want Billy around either.
No.
Because Billy looked like a bodybuilder. Hulk was muscular, but he was no bodybuilder. And Billy, I mean, he was an amazing, amazing specimen.
And Billy actually helped Hogan get started as well.
Yeah.
Helped him get booked, and he was one of the first wrestlers to talk to him. Because you probably know about this, so I may as well ask you about this now. I guess you were probably around when Hogan was hanging out at the
Rocket
matches.
Lounge?
Yeah.
Yeah, he used to play at the Rocket Lounge, guitar, and he came to the matches. And I think him and Billy struck up a friendship because where Billy lived in Tampa, he lived in those apartments that was close to a very famous Smith gym. Harry Smith was Junior Mr. America in 1948, and Harry still is, he's 92 and he still looks like an athlete. And Hogan was hanging around Billy, and they became friends, and you know, I'm sure Billy was the one that said, bleach your hair blonde, and the rest is history.
And do you think it's sad that Billy isn't used by WWE, for instance, at NXT, helping people with promos, when he has such a great mind for the business and he's very creative as he worked with them, but there's so much he could give, but unfortunately...
To me, the greatest interviewers I ever saw was King Curtis, and this is no direct number, King Curtis, Blackjack Mulligan, Dusty Rhodes, Superstar Billy Graham. Superstar could talk people into the building, and today they have, let me ask you this, you think Superstars, if they gave him a scripted interview, would be the same?
No.
That's what I think is lacking. I don't know if they want the guys to be so politically correct, they're afraid they'll go off in a tangent or something, but Superstar enthralled me. I'll give you an example. I have family that had no interest in wrestling, but when he came, they had never seen a specimen like him, and they didn't even go to the matches, but they tuned in to see him talk. And I don't care how you get the asses in seats. That to me is good worker. Guys can be the greatest workers technically, but if you don't put asses in seats, and you said he sold out 19 out of 20, that doesn't happen overnight, you know what I mean? And I'm sure that half the matches that he sold out, he was a stone heel. Then you started to see, by the time he got to Peter, he was the babyface, you know, and he was just, I could see how a guy could go in depression with this, that he's so talented that they don't use him. I don't know why. I mean, we're sitting here today, and I mean, people say, well, we don't hear the interviews anymore. You know, The Rock made a great interview. Austin made a great interview. I don't see those same interviews. I mean, I think Cena's done a wonderful job being the face of the franchise. It looks like Roman Reigns is going to be the next one. But they don't have that interview that Billy once had. But to this day, I still think Superstar should have turned babyface. And the one he should have turned against, they had done it so many times in tag teams, the babyface turned against the other babyface. Koloff in Superstar would have drawn a ton of money. One of former WWE.
Yeah,
you know,
that was Billy's idea. He wanted
was
Koloff to turn on him. That was how he wanted to switch.
It was. I mean, I didn't know that, but that was made. I mean, you could see that. You have a Russian, and then you have Superstar talking, and Ivan doing the with the manager talking. You know, and I kind of think he should have done it at the time. Ernie was Billy's manager.
Yeah.
Ernie could, Grand Wizard could have got involved in that finish and been with Koloff.
Yeah, that's
you
true.
know, and he could have talked for Koloff.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate that that didn't happen.